You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Josh Martinez.
How's it going?
Josh, please inform the wonderful viewing audience out there what you do professionally and kind of who you are.
Well, I'm a theater student graduate out of San Antonio, Texas, and I run a podcast with my fiance called Action Addiction, where we talk about action movies and series mostly, and we just kind of riff on those. It started as conversations that we have with each other whenever we go to the movies, and I've been wanting to get into podcasting because I was, a big fan of podcasts, and I thought, well, fuck it. Why don't we just turn that into the podcast, the stuff we normally talk about? And professionally, I work at this school district here in San Antonio and a very, very boring accounting type job that just I fucking hate, man.
Okay, so you're explaining most day jobs. I'm pretty sure everybody just does it for the income. It's never really what they want to do, which is what I find super interesting because, like, we're doing something, but it's to get us by. But then we're also trying to make time for something that we truly love to do.
Right. And ultimately the goal is, be able to merge those two and make the thing you love, the thing that brings in the money, right?
Yeah, it's crazy is that fear of losing that paycheck or something is it'll make you stay in that job even though you may hate it, man. Even though it may make you miserable, you never want to feel like you don't have anything.
Yeah, dude, it's scary, once you so like even like in college, I went through 4 years of university. It's a bubble, right? So it's like you kind of feel like you're out on your own, but in reality, at least in my case, I had my parents still backing me up, through financially through all of it. And you get out on your own, and especially as like a theater guy, a guy who's aspired to be an actor, or, somewhat still aspires to be an actor. You have all these ideas of where you want to go, the things you want to do, and all of a sudden you're smacked with, oh shit, I got my own bills to pay. Everything costs money.
Wait a minute, there's an electric bill? What? Who? Why wasn't I not informed of this?
I know, man. No one told me until I was 21. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's funny because I wanted to grow up so bad, and then now I find that I've grown up. I kind of want to go back to my child days when the biggest complaint in the world for me was how I liked my peanut butter and jelly cut.
Oh, dude, no shit, man. Or like when am I going to go to the video store to rent another video game? You remember that? Remember doing that?
Yeah, when Blockbuster was still a thing, and back in the day, you had to convince your parents that like, oh, it's only 18 and up because it has a little bit of blood in it, and then your next thing you know, they're hearing F-bombs drop upstairs. You're like, what the oh shit, I was not. All right, so okay, this is really good. So you ever heard of the game Brutal Legend?
Yes, with the Jack Black, right?
Yeah. So when this game first came out, so I was like, it's Jack Black's game. We got to play it. And it asks, do you want to hear cursing in like the very first thing? So it's A for yes and X for no. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. So me and my like 14-year-old friend, we're sitting here like, yeah, we want to hear the full experience. So we have the TV turned up all the way downstairs. They're eating dinner, like open doorway so you can see them all eating. And then we just hit yes. And then next thing you know, all you hear is, you motherfucker, and just loud as hell. And they just looked over like, what game did we just buy for you?
Oh shit, that's too funny. I have a similar story with Jack Black. When I was 11, the Tenacious D movie came out, and I was like, it's Jack Black's in it, and it's a movie about heavy metal, which I was really into at the time. And I told my aunt I want to go see this movie. Jack Black's in it. And my family was pretty chill about rated R. Like I saw Scarface when I was like 7 years old.
It's like cover your eyes when you see tits or something. Just cover.
Yeah. Tits, no. Blood and violence, totally cool.
Yeah.
But
guy getting his arms chainsawed off. You're able to watch that, but we don't.
Yeah. Just no tits, man. None of that. That's not what the Lord wants. But So I get my aunt to take me to this movie, and it is just a shit show from the very beginning. You know, if you've seen the movie, you know it's like cock push-ups and dropping the f-bomb every other word, and it was just too funny, man.
He talks about in the beginning, it's him as a child playing guitar, and he's like talking about slicing a dragon's balls off, like in a song, and the family's
Yeah.
just sitting there looking at him. And then like it's the whole thing with like I remember they were like, you can't watch this movie. I was like, but Jack Black's in it. Like you can watch a little bit of it. And then I started getting into it. They're like, all right, it's time to go upstairs now. I'm
Yeah,
like,
like in
oh.
the first 5 minutes, like it dives head into it. And we were at the movie theaters watching this, so we were just like stuck there.
Have you had a really embarrassing moment in the movie theaters, like watching an inappropriate movie with your family, not knowing that's what it was?
Oh, not quite. So the story that comes to mind is me and my best friend growing up. We went to see this really shitty like hangover ripoff comedy called College. And we couldn't get in because it was rated R. So his mom came to see it with us. And we were watching it, and again, just the same thing, like hangover ripoff, a lot of like excessive cursing that it's just like it's not even cool when they're trying too hard to be edgy, and like tits, and like the final scene of the movie is just this like guy getting laid in the back of a car, and he's like just fucking like what's the word I'm looking for, he's just like power jacking this chick, and she's like, yeah, fuck me. And that comes to mind. And me and him are both just sitting there like,
I remember I was 15 years old and this movie came out, and I just saw the actors that were in it. I was like, oh, Chris Rock's in it. Oh, Martin Lawrence is in it. Oh, and I just like, it's all these famous people. Morgan, what's his name? Tracy Morgan's in it. And so I go with my grandparents. They wanted to see this movie with Steve Carell called Date Night. And I was like, how about we see something better? Like we see Death at a Funeral. And I did not know that was like a black comedy movie. So we get in there and it's just me, my elderly grandparents, and then we're in a theater of black people. And I'm like, I'm totally oblivious to it because I don't judge on that thing. So I'm just sitting in the back eating my popcorn. I heard this. I saw trailers to this movie. It's gonna be really, really good. And we're watching it. Then there's scenes like the old, like what do you get? You get Donald Glover sitting on top of the roof naked, just slapping his legs together. And I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. And my grandfather's not saying a word, but my grandma was snorting, laughing the whole entire movie, more than I was.
Well, that's awesome. At least no like closet racism came out, so that's pretty good.
It felt so much better that she was laughing. I swear, dude, because even her snorting, laughing. Like, that's how you know she's really laughing. My grandfather would laugh at that. So then it was like, it made the uncomfortable stuff go away.
Okay, well, that's good. Shit.
And when he gets like shit on his hand, oh my God, that's like, it was humorous to me. And I was glad that like when we left there on the ride home, it wasn't uncomfortable. Like she was laughing. She's like, that was a pretty good movie. And I was like, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. We luckily, even in the situation that I shared, his mom, it wasn't awkward. It was more like she knew that it was awkward for us. So she like made fun of us for it. She's like, so y'all really wanted to see that, huh? Like she was just fucking with us. So that was pretty cool. At the time, I was just like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just pretend this never happened. But she was like teasing us about it. So that was pretty cool.
I like, it's really, really weird because like you get connections with movies when it comes to like especially when you're a kid, if you watch family like movies and stuff as such. And like I remember one movie, everyone got to pick one a night. Basically, you get to pick one movie, whatever your choice. So my brother picked Role Models one night, and he was like, Dad, I've already seen it, you're gonna like it. And my dad does a Kiss tribute band, so he's met Kiss and he dresses up like Kiss back when I was a kid all the time in his cover band.
Oh, that's sick, man.
So my brother goes, hey, you're going to like this movie. And my dad's like, okay, so we're watching it. It's all talking about Kiss and it's Kiss references. And at the ending, they dress up like Kiss and do this LARPing thing. It's with Paul Rudd. And they call it Kiss My Anthea. It's supposed to be like an old school like clan thing. But it's like, my dad was laughing because he was like, this is Kiss. Like he's talking about Love Gun and all this stuff, like all the stuff my dad grew up on. So he really liked it. Then it was my turn. And I picked something I didn't know because I thought it was just about superheroes. And I picked The Watchmen.
Oh, boy.
Do you know how uncomfortable it is to see a giant blue man with a ripped six-pack and his dick is just right over the screen, and you're sitting there, little kid, when it just came out, watching it with your family, and my brother just goes, "Nice movie pick, Robbie." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know."
There's just a big blue hog on the screen. Yeah, dude. And all the, like, just that movie in general is just super, it's very mature. It's not, obviously not a kid's comic book movie. And even the comic book itself obviously wasn't meant for kids. So yeah, man, that's awkward. I don't remember my first time watching that movie, but I do remember watching it with my parents and it being an awkward kind of thing where it's like, we just don't want to acknowledge that there's sex happening, and all these people who are supposed to be superheroes are cursing and in general being shitty people. That was my first experience with Watchmen.
Now, if you had one best experience, did you have it at home watching a movie, or was it like, were you watching it alone? Were you in the movie theaters? I mean, I've had some good movie theater experiences, but I feel like the best ones that I've really had was like one where it was like you got the candle set, and then it's like you and your family watching like a movie, order off, what everybody forgot about, HBO, and paying that $4.99 for a freaking movie. It's like, oh my God.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude. So it was kind of the same thing where we didn't have like it was like, okay, one night you pick the movie, one night you pick the movie, but family nights for us were always movies. Like we were always watching movies, always watching TV. So that always sticks out in my head is just how much I watched movies, and that really is where my love for stories and acting grew from. The experience that sticks out in my mind that's always really special to me was my grandma took me to see Finding Nemo when it came out. I forget when, but I was young, and I remember the scene where the little girl, the dentist little girl, like comes into the movie for the first time, and the Psycho theme plays, and like there's that hard zoom in on her. I remember my grandma laughing so hard at that, and that made me laugh so hard. And that's definitely one of my favorite movie theater memories. And I love going to the movies. Me and my fiance now, we go to the movies all the time. Obviously, we watch stuff for the podcast, but just in general, we're always going to the movies. I love the movie theater experience. I have to get there like half an hour early. I got to get my popcorn, snacks, maybe a beer, and just like settle in and be excited for like 15 minutes before the trailers start to roll,
Yeah, you don't want to get there last minute, like you're just getting right through the previews. Oh, we could just miss the previews. Like then when that's what gets us in the mood to watch the film.
Yeah, exactly. Is that anticipation, and maybe you see a trailer for something you haven't heard of, and you're like, man, that looks dope. Or, the other way is like, man, I just want this movie to start. But yeah, it's that anticipation. It's the whole experience,
I really don't like how now when you go to a movie theater, they say instead of please silence your cell phones, it's please dim your cell phones.
I haven't noticed that, really.
Yeah, it's not, at least in my area, they have please dim your cell phones. And I'm like, What did that just say? Like, dim your cell phone. Like,
no.
When I see someone's phone screen light up in front of me, I'm like, bitch, turn that phone off. Like, yeah, seriously, dude. Like,
yeah, get the fuck out of here with that.
And then people are Snapchatting and doing all this. I'm like, you're supposed to be connecting with people right now. Like,
yeah, dude,
this is a moment. Like, you're not going to have this in about an hour. It's going to go away. And then you paid $11 for what? Nothing.
Yeah. Like you're missing out. Like when you do that, you're unplugging from the story. Right. So when I watch a movie, I look at it like riding a roller coaster. Like I want to take the journey. I want to feel the emotional beat. I want to anticipate what the character's anticipating. I really want to plug in and be in that moment with them, right? Because that's the excitement of storytelling, is you feel like you're there. You put yourself in the character's shoes. So when like you do that, you get on your phone and you're like texting or, just in general being distracted or even talking during a movie, like, just no, dude, just get out of here with that shit. You got to take the journey. I even get annoyed. Like my brother, he always is trying to get ahead of movies. He's always like, I figured it out. Like, oh, and I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, just watch it. So like, yeah, man, you just, and being on the phone, obviously in general in life gets you unplugged from what's going on around you, let alone in a movie. Like, don't fuck with my story time, really. Like,
Yeah, you paid for an experience, not to, listen to someone Snapchat or hear their notifications go off. It's like, is it really that hard to make us disconnect from these things for just an hour or two?
Yeah, man, really. And it's not like you're doing nothing. There's something going on the screen. especially if you're in like a Marvel movie or like a big event movie, there's explosions and shit happening on the screen. Fuck your phone. Like, there's something going on.
Yeah, you start to realize that's what they capitalize now on is like attention seeking stuff. So like in an action film, for instance, there's explosions the first minute, and there's explosions constantly all the time. And you watch movies evolve in a way. It doesn't seem like they're really storytelling anymore. It seems like they're playing on quick laugh or a quick action scene or something. A lot of fighting going on, like John Wick or something. But they did it right with creating the story. But in a lot of films now, you just see them trying to grab your attention with something real quick because our attention spans are really, really small now. They wander off too quickly. It's hard for you to sit down and really focus in on a movie without it in capturing you with the sound, the giant screen, and then they have to have things going across things like, there always has to be anticipation to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think you're mostly right. I think like cinema nowadays, like when you go to the movie theater, the big movies you go to see are these event-driven films. So obviously the Marvel films, the DC films, even horror films to a degree. Horror is still having a pretty good time in the cinemas, and that's what people are going to see. There's less of an incentive now to go see a story-driven movie or a heavily dramatic movie. Even comedies I see are kind of dying off just a little because people are getting their comedy, from Marvel movies, really. Like, and I'm not shitting on the MCU. I'm a huge fan. I remember being there when Iron Man started and being excited, to see the universe grow, and it has. And, Endgame, I think, is probably the biggest cinematic event in our lifetime. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's come at the cost of very good storytelling and sort of the death of the independent film industry. A lot of it has gone to Netflix, which is cool, but obviously there's less money there to a degree. And a lot of the really great writing has gone to television shows. And that's why even I think just within the past like decade, maybe, writing in television has gotten really, really good. We have stuff like Game of Thrones. We have stuff like the new Watchmen series, even The Walking Dead up until maybe like season 5, in my personal opinion.
I'd say season 4, dude. But I mean, you can only go so far with the zombie concept. I mean, after a while, it ends up being the same thing where you can't really make anything new happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was being generous with season 5 because season 4 is when I was like, I remember that was the height of tension, with the governor and everything. But after that, it's literally been like a repeat. All right. New society. Oh, they're not as good as we thought they were.
Why aren't they fucking showering?
Dude, why isn't Daryl washing his goddamn hair?
Why are they having sex? That my dad brought this up because they're having sex and they probably smell like complete shit. Like, I don't see how you would get turned on to like a pile of poop on the street. Like, at least like jump in a lake or a water, anything just to watch. You got zombie brains on your freaking face and you're banging this chick. I don't understand what's going on. I'm like, you bring up some really good points.
It's the adrenaline rush, man. I mean, think about it. As a guy, like, you know how it is. Like, you get that horny and there's not a whole lot going on because there's a literal fucking apocalypse going on. You get the opportunity. I think a guy's going to take it 10 times out of 10, bro.
Yeah, I guess an impending apocalypse really is just anywhere you can get it.
Yeah. I mean, especially a guy in their 20s, like, come on.
You got fucking Rick wandering off in the fields of grain and everything, just looking for his lost wife. And you're just sitting there like, I'm going to bang this out real quick and then we're going to handle the Rick situation.
Yeah. All right. And just give me like 5 minutes, maybe 3, if I can do it quick enough.
The zombies are coming, Josh. Nope. Hold on.
Come on, guys.
Give me like 10 minutes. Okay. I had to set the mood. We had to get this all right. And now everything's going like, come on. We're going to watch a movie real quick.
Yeah. Don't talk.
Who wants a Capri Sun?
Shut up.
So if I had to ask you, what's your favorite movie snack? Because mine changed from when I was a kid. Like when I was a little kid, like 7, 8 years old, going to the movies all the time with my grandfather, that was the thing. There's a giant old school movie theater before they built the one we used to have here. They rebuilt it now, like just a couple months ago, and they sell beer now. and
Nice.
it has its own bar. I'm like, yeah, that's what you want, drunk people going into a film. Yeah, it's you really want people screaming at the theater screen, don't you? But I would go in with my grandfather, and before we started going to the dollar store down the street and grabbing candy, we would buy stuff there, drinks, popcorn, and I'd always get snow caps. Snow caps were always my favorite. But as soon as I sat down, I killed that whole entire box before the previews were even up. So I was ended up with nothing. And I looked over and I'm like, how are you still having your candy? He's like, next time we go, I'm going to teach you a trick. So the next time we went, which was like the next weekend, he goes, instead of getting that, get Swedish fish or juji fruits. And I'm like, what? Are you just asking to like torment yourself through the whole movie? And he's like, just trust me, dude. I only got down a quarter of that box in a good 2.5 hour movie. I understand what he was talking about because you're gonna pick those things out of your teeth for like the next 3 days. Like
Yep.
that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner right there.
I was just thinking that too. I was like, yeah, it's harder to chew. That makes total sense. Man, smart grandpa. I like his style.
Yeah, well, he also hides candy all over the place because he's not allowed to have any. But my grandma's, I guess, what you'd say, she's hunched over a little bit. So we have the pots and pans that hang from the ceiling, and they're just there for decoration because she can't reach them, she can't use them. He tapes Reese's cups inside of the pots and pans and just hides them. So like he has candy hidden all around the house.
Oh, that's legendary, bro.
Like I'd be sitting there like, where do you get all this candy? He goes, I have spots. I'm like, what spots? He goes, check under your seat. And I'm like, look under the kitchen table or something. There's like Snickers bars and Milky Ways and Kit Kats lined up on the thing. I'm like, does she not know this? Like
he's like John Wick, but with candy. Like instead of weapons all over the place, it's just like candy. That's awesome.
He would prefer something like Steven Seagal because that's like his style of things.
Oh man, Steve, fuck. All right. I'll give him that one.
Talk about some unrealistic shots, man. Like they got him doing things that he can't do, and then they just ended up shooting him from above the waist, like just like above, like where like the neck is. They're like shooting from above there.
Dude, yeah, that guy he's crazy. Like he's delusional. I remember seeing an interview with him I was still in high school, so maybe like 7-8 years ago, and he's a bigger guy now. Obviously, it happens when you get older. And he was getting interviewed by this guy who commentates on MMA events. They call him The Voice. And he asked him, "Do you think that you're as good of a martial artist now as you were when you were younger?" And Steven Seagal, completely straight face, goes, "I think I'm faster than I was 20 years ago." And I'm thinking, what the actual fuck? You're maybe quicker to pick up a donut.
Yeah. It's funny because Joe Rogan had a bit of, he was doing a podcast and one of them said something. He said that there was this show where they literally had like Steven Seagal would do things like go to people's like jobs and stuff and help them improve, kind of like, rescue bar or something. And he went to a cops training session and the guy's like, guys, we have Steven Seagal here to teach you how to be officers and to defend yourself. And Steven Seagal just comes up and he's like all bloated and he's like goes, when someone comes at you, you go to kick him like this, and then he can barely lift his leg up. But he's the type of guy where it's not trying to top your story, but you say something like, yeah, I'm going to try and learn how to fly helicopters. I think that'd be pretty cool. He goes, I've been flying helicopters for 40 something years. You're like, what?
Yeah, he's trying to top your life. He's like, I am a better human being than you. That's too funny. Yeah, the whole show was centered around that. I think was him like trying to be a police officer. And it's funny if you go back and like watch the episodes. He is such a backseat driver, dude. Like they literally have him in the back of the car, and he's like poking his head up in between the seats, like asking them questions, telling them where to go. It's farcical, but I guess that's why the show didn't last very long.
So what is your favorite candy food that you would have at a movie theater?
Oh, right. So favorite candy at a movie theater right now, like, yeah, it does like rotate for me, as I discover new things. Right now, it's the sweet tart ropes. Me and my fiance love those. Like we have to get like 2 of the shareable packs because like we'll like bang through one. So that's my favorite candy, but favorite movie snack, like just of all time, is definitely popcorn. Because even like if I go through phases where I don't want it as much, I do at least like always want it at a movie or when I'm watching a movie, even here at home, even like when I'm streaming on Twitch, like I'll have popcorn. I love it, man. I think it's the perfect movie snack. Salty, you get like a sugary drink, and that combo is just that's the movie experience for
See,
me. Or beer now.
I'm from Maryland, so we put Old Bay on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically everything you eat. And I remember my dad brought it into the movie theater one time. Didn't ask for butter on his popcorn. Just said, "I'll just take it plain." The guy's like, "You want plain popcorn?" The guy's like, yeah. So we get in a theater. He just pulls out a can of Old Bay and just starts dumping it all over the popcorn. He's like, "Try this." Dude, it was amazing. I was like, this is awesome. Like, you talk about sneaking in a goodie. I mean, I remember one time, my grandma's like, let's get some, like, something, because we were going to eat after the film. So she was like, we're going to need more than popcorn or something kind of sustain us over. So we go and see The Karate Kid, and the new one with Jaden Dank, or not Jaden Dank. What's his name?
Jaden Smith.
So Jaden Dank's actually my cousin's name.
I was like, Jaden, where's you pulling that one from?
Name drop. Right.
Yeah. But, yeah, I know my cousin. What of it?
But it's funny. We're watching the film, and she got the one thing that is probably the worst thing to have at a movie theater: Sun Chips.
Oof.
That fucking bag. She was afraid to even pull a chip out, dude, because she was like, all you hear is the crinkling of the bag, and she's just like, and she's like doing it all slow, so it's even worse. So then you start feeling like people are like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now,
dude?" Yeah, it was like that when I saw A Quiet Place in the theaters, and like everyone, you could just tell, like, just didn't want to move. Like, I didn't want to reach in to like get even like popcorn, just like the rustling of popcorn I didn't want to do. And like if anyone had any bag of candy, like just no one wanted to touch it, which is funny because I actually think that was like the intended effect of the movie, is to make the audience want to be just as quiet, So I think that was just like brilliant directing on John Krasinski's part.
I won't call out something like my buddy won't go. Like we have plans coming up to go see Zombieland, and he's like, he's like, how are you going to act? I'm like, what do you mean? How am I going to act? He goes, I don't want to have to feel like I'm embarrassed at the movie theater. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you call people out on their shit. I was like, I'm not a jerk about it. If you have your cell phone go off and then you're like, ooh, sorry. Like, I've had those moments too. But like, if I've had that moment happen to me in my life, it happened one time. I had my phone on. Someone called me. I go, I'm sorry. I'm an asshole. And then I turned it off. And it was probably the wrong setting because I was watching Cars 2. So it's like, there's kids there, and I just hear some kid in the back. Yeah, you are an asshole. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
All right.
The parents were probably more pissed that you said asshole than the phone going off.
He's probably congratulating his kid. Like, good job, man. Good job.
I know, yeah. It's one of those moments where you want to be mad, but you can't.
Yeah, you call people out on their shit. That's what you do. No, but it was funny because some dude's phone went off, and I'm fine about it because, if he's going to be apologetic, I'm sorry, or, he turns it off real quick, tries to get it off as fast as possible. Somebody picked up their phone and had a conversation for a good 5 minutes in front of me. And my buddy just looks over and grabs me, like me about to get out of my seat, not to yell at him or anything, but just to tell him, hey, on, dude, seriously. Yeah. And he like goes to kind of like, when someone gets into a car accident, you reach your arm over to protect the passenger or something, like kind of like keep them back in their seat or something if you're slowing down too fast.
Right.
And he does that to me. I'm like, what? He's like, don't say anything. He's gonna stop. So it went on for a couple more minutes, and I literally said, dude, off the phone or out of the theater.
Yeah.
And I felt like a goddamn hero. Everybody was clapping. Yeah, get off your phone. Like I was the voice of a generation.
And all of a sudden everyone wants to join in. That's great. We don't have like that bad of a problem. Like at least here, I want to say probably maybe it's a Texas thing, but like here in San Antonio, definitely not. Like, yeah, we do see like the occasional like screen come up, like, people text. That bugs me enough as it is, but I don't think I've ever been in a situation where someone answered their phone. No, that's not true. I've been in situations where someone has answered their phone, but only to tell the person, I'm in a movie, I'll call you right back. But even at that, I'm like, just don't answer it. Like, like if you want to do that, just shoot him a text message.
Or someone has a baby. I have not been to a movie theater in probably in over a year now, only on the concept of every time I go somewhere, like an airplane, a bus. I went to my college graduation and there were 3 babies crying, not 1, 3 the whole time. I was like, and they wouldn't stop. They did it for a good hour and a half straight. And I'm like, I literally, when I was grabbing my diploma, I grabbed the microphone and I said, yeah, I made it, all this stuff, like doing a joking. I even made a video and put it on my Instagram. And I said, shout out to the babies in the bleachers that were, my fans the whole time. They were cheering this whole entire time. And I made a joke out of it. But I swear, every time I go movie theaters, there's always a child that should not be there.
Wow, man. Yeah, dude, that's a big pet peeve too. And what pisses me off like even more is when people like don't have the decency to like step out with their kid, whether it's like, at church or obviously at a movie or like a graduation, like step out into the lobby, like take them to the bathroom, something.
No, they tune it out. They just tune it out, and they just let the kid go and go and go to where he gets louder and louder. His face gets redder. And I'm like, throw his ass in a hot car. I hate to say it, but shit, like I'll take him out and beat his ass. And that's why I have my moments. Look, I have my moments where I'm like, I'm a really good guy. I really am. But like I have my moments where I'm like, I could not be a dad because I knew how bad of a kid I was, like ADHD, jumping all over the walls. And I just looked at him. I was like, how are you so patient? He's like, dude, I have my moments, but I loved you. And I'm like,
right,
dude, I don't know how you do it because like I see a kid, like a little cute baby. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to be a dad. And then next thing I know, I see a kid screaming in the store or hitting another person in the back of the heel with a shopping cart. I'm like, you be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally just leave you. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, you did what? You answered your phone in a you son of a bitch. Like, I raised the devil.
Yeah, I raised you better than that. Yeah, dude, I feel the same way. I could not be a dad. Like, kids in general right now just scare. Like, the idea of having kids just scares the shit out of me. And like, my fiance and I both are like, just like, nope, no kids, nothing for at least a decade. We'll check back in then, see if that's something we want to do. But right now, man, I'm like, where I'm at right now is like, I don't see myself ever wanting kids simply on the fact that like, I just want to be able to live my life and do what I want when I want to do it, And
Yeah.
when you have kids, your life becomes about that kid. Nothing pisses me off more than bad parents like who are trying to like still live their life, do their own thing. And, they're dropping kid off constantly at, grandma, grandpa's. It's like, no, your life is about that kid now. Like you don't get to go out and do the same things you did when you were in college or fresh out of college. That's your life. And
that's what makes it like kind of understandable. You see a guy walk in and he's got his kid in a movie theater or something. It's like a little baby or something. I'm like, then you shouldn't go to the movies because he's not fit for that. Like his ears are still developing. If he needs headphones to watch something, then he's not right for that scene. You know what I mean? Like I went to my first concert when I was really little. I saw, I saw School of Rock. They did like a live performance of it and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not like the actual kids, but like people doing it at an amusement park. And I've been sitting there with earplugs in my ears. And I remember even before that, like my dad was a drummer. My mom was a singer. And like they would put me on stage as I was a baby. And my dad would just sit there if my mom was playing or something, like her band was going on. He'd cover up my ears.
Right.
You just do that. Like music was a big influence in my life from when my dad, if you ever been to Baltimore, he played Ram's Head Live in his Kiss tribute band. I remember hearing him play drums. He was the Cat Man. And I could feel the beat hit my ribs in such a way where I was like, I definitely am too young to be experiencing this, but I was able to handle it. I just think, I understand the whole priority option. You don't have time, you don't have to do this, but like when you do this and it's going to end up being bad and then you choose not to address it, especially like screaming in a movie theater or screaming somewhere, you just tend to ignore it and let them do it out. They can go pretty fucking long.
Yeah, man. And it's selfish really is what I think it is the parent just not wanting to deal with it. They're tuning it out, still trying to watch a movie or watch, whatever graduation's like, no, there are people around you, be considerate of that. The world doesn't revolve around you and your kid. So yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine. That's really cool though, that like you grew up around music and performers. Cause I love music too. And, it's like something like I've always loved in my life, but I've always been too afraid to touch it for myself, try my hand at it. But like just recently I've, started singing like vocal covers of, some metal songs that I like. And I didn't go to my first real concert until I was 22, which was like, is like insane to me. but just because, money, we didn't have time to go, or I always was vaguely aware of I was always very aware of the fact that the music I like is not the music my parents like. And I don't want to drag them to like a show to like listen to the music I want to listen to. So it wasn't until I was 22 and I had some money of my own that I took me and my fiance to a concert. We went to see Logic, and it was just a blast, man. And it was really cool for like my first concert experience.
Yeah, you see, like for me, my whole influence, like both my parents are in radio, so they meet bands all the time. I've met. Are you a fan of reggae at all?
No, man.
Well, have you ever heard the band Slightly Stupid?
No, I like their name though.
Yeah, they were. You've heard of Sublime, probably.
Yes, sir.
Well, the guy from Sublime went to this high school, and these two kids were there, and they grabbed them, and they formed the band Slightly Stupid, and they were signed on to Sublime's record label. So
That's sick.
they still play the original. They're older guys and stuff. And then I've met bands like you probably won't know if I named them, the Expendables, Pepper, Ballyhoo, 311. The list goes on, but it's like it was always normal to me because it was just something I had there. Like my parents have the option. I can get free tickets to any concert even now whenever I want. And I never take the option. Even though I'm 21, I can go to any concert now. Before it was like I did it for like a good year. I was going to concerts a lot, but then it just got old. It was just like it's always been there. My parents are broadcasters and then DJs at night. So I understand all the music and stuff. It's just like it's the same concept I can relate to my buddy that works in a movie theater. Like he's like, I get to see movies all the time, man. Like when he goes home, he doesn't want to watch movies ever. He's just like, I get it at work. Like that's my paycheck basically.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I get that. That's like cool though. And I get that, like kind of like that, you get burnt out on it eventually. Whereas right now I'm still in that, I'm definitely still in that phase where it's like any artist that comes through that one I can afford, I'm definitely going to go see just because, man, I can't get enough of it. I love that feeling of being in the crowd. Excuse me. So I'm just still definitely in that phase. And I get that.
I like the emotion that music can put out too. Like I know we're going from movies to music, but like it's the same correlation too. Like, you're listening to you'll be able to hear a certain word drop in a song, but if it's in the song, you can say it. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like I remember being able to say CeeLo Green's song "Fuck You," but I couldn't say it when I was like back in the day. I could not just say that to somebody. I had to sing the song. So I'd be like, I see you driving around turn with the girl I love, and I'm like, "Fuck you." And that's how I would curse at people.
That's funny. Yeah, you can definitely. It's like when the songs go on, it's like you can kind of get a pass for saying like the curse words. But you're right, man. Music definitely. It hits that emotional, just that I think that's a word, resonation point within you. And like all art does, like you said, movies and music, it's that artistic expression that really just hits home with mostly, I want to say everyone. I don't understand people that don't like music especially if you say, oh, I don't really like movies, I prefer reading. I'm like, okay, sure. Like you get your storytelling from there. But if you don't like music, it just really strikes me as odd. It's like, it's the vibrations, there's literal force in those notes. There's literal like waves of energy moving. And I just don't know how you can't vibe with that.
It's funny because you're talking about how you're kind of like you're not really like what you're listening to or whatever kind of change, but going from movies to music, like I found that in myself. I went from music to movies, then trying to finding a new form of creativity I actually started getting interested in was paintings, like actually enjoying something. Like I remember like before I took a music appreciation class, and that's what really leveled me a little bit too, because I was already podcasting. I was becoming more open-minded as it kind of came across. I was being a little bit more knowledgeable by just the conversations I was having.
Right.
Sitting in music appreciation, just actually not just listening to things I wanted to listen to, but different stuff. I remember they had a symphony and like they were going around like, asking what their favorite part is of the symphony. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the guy for the fucking triangle coming in. And then next thing you know, there's the triangle guy. And he only had like 5 notes, but he played the shit out of it. He went bing, and I'm like, that's my G right there.
Yeah, that's your shit. It's within the composition, just that little thing. It's just like the icing on the cake. You're just like, there it is.
But it's like what makes movies so fascinating too is relatable experiences. I like the guy with the triangle and I like the guy with the crash symbols because I've had band in school and that's what my position was. I had to do the Star Spangled Banner and I had crash symbols and the guy was supposed to key me in on when to come in because I was filling in for someone. So I'm like, my dad's a drummer. That was obviously what I was going to sign up for in band class. And my dad's just videotaping it and he still has it. It's me in the background and I miss the part and I just start hitting the crash symbols over and over and over. I probably murdered our Star Spangled Banner, but my dad was laughing his ass off. He's like, "That's my kid, dude. Like, that's my son." Like, he's
That's
in the
awesome.
back, like he's like he's holding them up like they're mitts for MMA or something. Like, I was going ham, and then they gave me the triangle. Then eventually, I moved down to like these wood block things that I would hit, and they're like, I would just end up playing like Starry Night, and they're like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing playing Silent Night right now?" And we're in the middle of like Beethoven's Fifth. I'm like, I don't know. I'm
You're
just
like, that's what I know how to play. That's what I'm doing.
they moved me down to slide whistle thinking that was going to be better. Hell no. I was doing that every time someone got up, every time someone sat down, every time someone dropped something. I was slide whistle. I come out of the corner with the slide whistle.
Oh man. Oh man, you should get into sound design, like for like movies and shit. I bet you'd be great at it.
That's something that's really, really interesting if you actually look into that. Like, I went into communication arts in my senior year, and it was mostly like the teacher was like, "Are you going out to film?" So we would be able to leave school and then come back like an hour when class was supposed to be over or something. And sometimes it lasted 2 periods, so you'd be there for like 3 hours. So like when you go, well, I would just go home some days and just watch TV and then go back to school. And
Yeah.
she was like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "We're actually going to go to Chick-fil-A and get breakfast." And she was like, "All right, bring me back a spicy chicken." And like, we would just go out and get shots, but it was the funnest stuff in the world because we would have such an amazing time. Like all of our friends, we reenacted like a scene from Step Brothers. We reenacted a scene from Hot Rod. It's on my own personal Instagram because it was so much fun doing it. Like it was like we added all the video effects to it, made it just like the movie. You know, we chopped it up real nice so everything went together all perfectly. And it was like a form of acting that I was always really interested in.
Yeah, dude, that's really cool that you bring that up because yeah, there's nothing like filmmaking and for me like there's nothing like acting in general. I've done more acting on the stage than I have on camera, and I personally find like being on camera very challenging. I don't know, there's just something that's not quite linking up there. I feel like I'm gonna do too much, so I pull back too much, and it looks like I'm not doing anything.
Dude, I
But
used to get really bad stage fright. That's why I never took theater.
oh wow, dude! But you could do music, like you could perform.
Barely. My whole family plays music. I played for a little bit, but it just didn't come naturally to me. You know,
Mm,
like I can tell you, I can learn songs, obviously, but I just didn't really enjoy it as much as they did. Like my dad played drums, my mom played guitar and sing, my brother
mhm.
plays guitar and sings, and then plays like everything else. And then for me, I was like, well, I'm gonna try drums. That didn't work out. I'm gonna try bass. That didn't work out. All right, I'm gonna. I can still play them, but it's not fun for me. Then I ended up picking up like weird instruments like a melodica, which is like a keyboard with a mouthpiece.
Huh.
So you have to blow
Oh
into it.
yes, yes, yes. I know what you're talking about.
So I have the worst experience with this because me and my brother, before I was in a band with him for a little while, and it's actually what my intro song is. That's us playing on the radio. But
Oh wow, that's cool.
it's like I remember we would get so stoned, and I would forget the fucking notes that he told me, and I'd be sitting there. Then I forgot how to breathe, and I was playing in this piano that you had to breathe into for any sound to come out. So my brother's like, "Robbie, are you okay?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Where were you?" I'm like, "I don't fucking know."
Where are you, man?
Where are you? Where's the Fruit Loops?
Oh, that's so funny. But speaking of getting stoned, it's like I feel the same way. It's like I can't do anything stoned, but I can appreciate anything passively stoned. Like listening to music while stoned is just such a great, great way to listen to music. Like, are you a fan of Tool at all?
Yeah, man. They just released a new album.
Yeah, dude, Fear Inoculum. I listened to that thing start to finish, after I hit my like THC vape a little bit. And man, that was a journey.
Well, people listen to this like, oh, what that means you have to get stoned to listen to music? No,
No.
it changes your aspect on things. It's like someone takes like another version of your eyes and washes them and then puts them back in your head. Like you're seeing things a little bit more clearly and stuff that you don't really notice before.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely like you don't have to be under the influence of any substance to enjoy something. But just like THC in particular, like it kind of greases the engine there. You know what I mean? Like you said, it kind of like washes the eyeballs, and you feel like you're seeing everything,
It opens
hearing
the
everything for the
door
first
to
time.
more senses, I would say. Your perception gets a little bit different. Your mind really, really wanders. But,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, I remember there were times in my high school years, junior, senior year, I was like, I'm not going to school. I'm going to sit down with this salad bowl sized giant thing of cereal where it's like half a box of cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruity Pebbles, whatever you want to say. And I'd sit
Mm-hmm.
there and watch Step Brothers over and over and over again. And I would just be too lazy to change the channel. So I was getting stoned and watching Step Brothers all day. And then I decided I've seen this movie probably 80 times in like the past like 3 weeks. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to try the director's commentary. Dude, look up the director's commentary with Adam McKay, Will Ferrell, John C. Riley. They don't talk about Step Brothers at all. I was stoned and it felt like it lasted 8 hours. I was sitting there listening to it and they're like talking. And the next thing you know, towards the ending, it's the Catalina wine mixer. And then
Mm-hmm.
all you see is, hold on, who's that? So hold on, someone just walked by our studio. Michael Jordan, come on in here, Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan just comes on in. They're all talking. I'm like, I'm listening to it high off my ass. Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Whoa. Dude, that's so great. I should do that. Yeah. Listening to commentary on films can be really interesting and really like fulfilling sometimes, especially if you are like a film nerd like that. That's like your bread and butter right there. That's so funny because I thought you were going to go a different route. I thought you were going to say you decided to just watch like a movie you never watched before and like you were going to have your mind blown because that's happened to me like recently. So in high school, I was definitely a pothead and I just wanted to watch the silly things, right? I wanted to watch Step Brothers. I wanted to watch Harold and Kumar and just stuff that made me laugh. And now that I'm older, I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. But like when I do get stoned, I find myself wanting to like watch really good things, like good films, listen to good music, not just like high music. You know what I mean? And just because, yeah, just the appreciation for it is just up. And like you said, you get those eyes washed, and you're like, whoa, I'm seeing something for the first time. Um, so that's where my mind goes.
How many times have you watched a movie and then rewatched it over and over again and picked up something new every single time?
Oh, dude, I just did that recently with the Joker that came out. I saw that movie 3 times. I've seen it 3 times already. And every time, have you seen it?
I have not seen it. And people are like, Robbie, you took psychology. This would be a perfect movie for you because
Oh,
it
dude.
shows mental health. And that's something I get obsessed with.
Oh, man. It tackles mental illness in a very real and scary way. I don't want to say like it in a way you've never seen before, but definitely in a more gritty and realistic way than we've seen in a while in film.
It shows the real side of things.
Yeah, it shows the very like dark, ugly side of things, because obviously the mental illness happens on a spectrum. So this is showing a very, very severe case of a person who's been traumatized in their life, and it's contributed to their mental illness, and the mental illness has contributed to more of their trauma, and it's just that vicious cycle, right? So you see how this kind of person thrown into a society that can be pretty unforgiving sometimes. And the movie, obviously it's based in Gotham, the fictional city, but it's shot in New York, so it feels very much like it's taking place in New York. And a place like New York, like everyone knows, it's very fast paced, very unforgiving. And that movie, it definitely warrants watching at least twice. But I found even watching it 3 times, I'm just catching new things, coming up with new theories for myself. And it's a really good movie that encourages conversation among people. And I think that's a great film. I think that's all a good story should do, is encourage conversation.
Yeah, I remember seeing I Am Legend in theaters and then watching it later. Like every now and again, I would pick up something new, like at the ending where the zombie's running against the glass and breaking the glass with his head. And
Mm-hmm.
Will Smith grabs a grenade in his hand and he's about to run at the wall with the zombie. And then all he hears, "Look at the butterfly, daddy." And I was like, I was like, oh shit. If you
Yeah.
look as the zombie's cracking the glass with his head, it cracks into the form of a butterfly. Like
Mm-hmm.
perfectly. I was like, I totally glossed over that when I first saw this when I was a kid. It was like getting hit with a whole nother thing. Like you talk about a movie hitting you later in life. Like I watched Men Who Stare at Goats when it first came out with my grandfather because it had George Clooney in it. He's like, "We're seeing this." I'm like, okay.
Right on.
So I didn't understand it. I was like, that was a funny movie. I just
Mhm.
found out like last year that that's a real government experiment called Project Stargate that I actually podcasted on and found out that my mom went to that high school and it's an hour and a half away from me.
Yeah, dude. I think you talked about it a little bit in your podcast with I'm forgetting his name, but the guy who he does paranormal research. He's like a paranormal scholar. And yeah, I remember seeing it too when I was like in high school, and all I really got out of it was how funny and kind of stupid it was. But and then you find out, it was real and that it's based on true things, and that the government really tried to accomplish these things, and it kind of adds another level of absurdity and humor to it because you're like, this is dumb, but people actually tried
it
this.
makes it so much better too now knowing that. Like I look back, I'm like, that movie is fucking awesome. Like it had some secrets to it. It's like when your parents watched cartoons with you. I was like, why the hell is my dad watching Jimmy Neutron with me? And then it comes into the scene where the dad goes, Jimmy, one day I sat on a banana, and after that, it changed my life. And I'm sitting like, he sat on a banana, and I'm laughing as a kid, and my dad's like, there's a gay joke right there. Like my dad's not saying it. Like I always wondered why he loved it, and I realized they have the subtle jokes for adults too.
Yeah, the innuendos and shit.
Yeah, you don't see that in too much cartoons nowadays.
Really? I think cartoons nowadays are a little more overt with like their innuendo.
I think it's too obvious of humor, like a fart joke or something stupid, like a quick one. Like Teen Titans Go, when they remade that from Teen Titans, they completely trashed that whole series. And I get it coming from my little cousin loves that show. He's like, dude, did you know Beast Boy did this? And I'm like, look, we can bond a little bit about Beast Boy, but until you're ready to learn about like the actual Teen Titans, I'll show you the originals and you'll have a whole better understanding of like what you're watching is actually really, really good.
Of course I know about that Beast Boy, you scrub.
Yeah. Like they want to remake Courage the Cowardly Dog. I think the only one they're not going to be able to remake is Johnny Bravo.
Oh yeah, because that dude, that would just that's all kinds of loaded. It's it's all kinds of loaded. I'm just thinking about like all the political like correctness hoopla that would stir if they tried to bring that back, or they would bring it back and change it to try and like sort of accommodate the new modern audience, and it wouldn't be the same thing for better or for worse. But in my opinion, it would probably be for the worst.
I just think it's the concept of like sometimes it was meant for that time period. You can't bring back everything. Some things can be redone correctly, like a good old movie, maybe. Like one of my all-time favorite movies is made by the Coen brothers, The Big Lebowski. I mean, that was a impactful movie. I mean, just the amount of actors that was in there, but the scenes, the hilariousness of like when he's asking Larry about his homework 50 times, and then at the ending he goes, Look, Larry, we know this is your homework. I'm like, you're sitting there asking them like so long. It's like 10 minutes of it. It's classic, man. And I love those because like everyone I think has a really like an all-time favorite movie, or like it keeps changing too. But it's like there's always the really, really good ones that you can remember. Memory's so weird in that way.
Yeah, and like memory isn't entirely reliable either. Like sometimes like your recollection of something, like depending on how you felt about it, sort of enhances the memory. You remember it being better than it was, or maybe even worse than it was, depending on how you felt about it.
Like
I definitely felt the same way.
If you're sick and you go to a movie theater and you're like, you're not feeling so well, but someone dragged you to it and you don't really want to watch it, you're going to not really have a good impact of the movie once you leave. You're going to be like, it was okay. It wasn't worth getting out of bed and missing some clam chowder or something.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny because my fiance and I were just talking about today this ramen restaurant that she really likes. And I don't like it. I don't hate it, but in my opinion, I was like, it just wasn't very good. But I realized today we were talking about it. I kind of pissed her off the other day. So I was like, what can I do to make it up to you? And she's like, I want some ramen. So I was like, okay, we can go to that place you like. And we were kind of talking about it. And I was like, I didn't really like it. But the last time I went there, the only time we went there, I was sick. And she goes, that's why you don't like it. And I was like, you're probably right. Because I wasn't feeling good. I had to like blow my nose every like 5 minutes. So that's probably why I didn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah, it's definitely like first interpretations and also how you're really feeling that day. If you're in a bad mood and you try and, you can listen to music, that can help out a lot. But if you
Yeah.
had like something tragic, like if you lost a loved one and you need something to kind of cope, you go see a movie or you do something like that. You find that every time you see that movie, you think back to that moment. It's because
Right.
it's so impactful. Like the best thing to do if you experience a tragic loss or if you experience something really bad is not to really associate with anything that you do on the daily basis, because then you're going to think about it every time you do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then it can also have, the opposite effect. Instead of it being sort of a warm thing, it, can make it worse. There's music I can't listen to because I listen to it so much, like when I broke up with an ex or something, just, conjures just bad memories. And even if, you're over it, it can take you back to that point in time.
Jessica, I miss you, Jessica.
Oh, why? I don't want to say her name. I was going to say her name. I was like, that's probably a bad idea.
I made you a mixtape.
I mean, do you remember burning CDs? Was that ever a thing for you?
Yeah.
Like with like LimeWire? I remember that was like the coolest thing when I was in elementary school. And I remember like telling these girls, they're like, can you burn me a CD with this song on it? And I was like, yeah, I can.
Nobody understood the struggle of walking to the bus stop with a mixtape player or a CD player, and you were stuck with whatever you had in that for the whole entire bus trip there and the ride home. That whole day you were listening to that one album. I remember I got stuck with Black Eyed Peas, and I just listened to one song on there over and over again, the only one I liked.
Oh, was it Boom
It's
Boom
like,
Pow?
it was this was before that. This was Pump It. There were like
Oh, shit.
the first parts. And I was like, damn, I was like, now the kids have Spotify, all these things. They could be freaking listening to podcasts, listening to whatever they want. It's amazing, but it's like, damn, it's like you don't know what it was like not to have that.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how just instantaneous everything is now. One of the ladies at work told me a funny story, and I keep in mind I work with literal grandmas. I'm the youngest person at my office. They told me a funny story about one of their grandkids. She put a magazine in front of him, like to kind of keep him occupied, and he's maybe like 1.5, maybe 2 years old, and he looks at it and he looks at the front cover and he tries to swipe it with his finger. Like he
Oh
just
my
tries
God.
to move to turn the page. And she's like, no, honey, you got to grab the page and turn it. And I'm like, that is fucking mind blowing. Because as a kid, when we were kids, that's instinct, right? You're like, okay, a book, turn the page. But now kids, their instincts is all for the screen. Even my niece, who's very young, by the time she was like 1.5, 2 years old, she knew how to use the tablet. She knew how to get to YouTube Kids and watch the silly little videos that she liked to watch. It's crazy.
It's amazing because right when you said that, like swiping on a book, I immediately thought of the scene from Planet of the Apes where he walks outside, goes, "No, you damn dirty ape!
Damn it, you burned it up."
Like,
Yeah,
damn
man.
you!"
That's how it feels, right? You feel like a fossil. And when you say that and you're like in your 20s, everyone thinks you're an asshole. But you're like, hey, man, this is the oldest I've ever been.
It just shows that times change so fast.
Yeah, quickly. Because I'd venture to say, like me and you, like I'm only 24. So like we, pretty much came up at the same time. Like there was a moment in our childhood where there wasn't this much technology. Like we still played outside for a little while. Video games are definitely on the come up, but it wasn't until like 2006, 2007 that like MySpace came in. And then after that, it was just off to the races with social media and everything became about like technology.
Yeah, man, it's definitely changed the kind of every industry, music, whether it's art, whether it's, it's made it benefits, but it's also creates a little bit of a problem too, because now people are being less motivated to go to the theaters considering they can watch it on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I could tell you one thing. I've watched movies on my phone and it's not the same. I watched Avengers Endgame on my phone only on the concept of I was not sitting 3 hours in a movie theater. The longest movie I've ever sat through in a theater was when King Kong came out, the Peter Jackson film.
Yeah.
And dude, that was right after I got my report card. I was grounded after we went to the movie. So I was like, and it was just like a really terrible experience. I was like,
Oof, man, that sucks.
I hope this fucking movie goes on forever because as soon as I get home, I am having nothing right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely did go on forever. So Endgame for me, it was long. It was 3.5 hours, and you definitely felt like that extra because I think Infinity War was like 2.5. You definitely felt like at least one extra half hour. You're like, fuck, this movie's still going on. But like for me, like I said, I love the experience of being at the movie theaters. I love seeing it on the biggest screen possible. Like I just saw, or not just, but over the summer, I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters. And you have to see that on the biggest screen you can find. You cannot watch it on your TV. You can't watch it on your phone. Same thing with Pacific Rim when that came out.
That
years
movie
ago.
gets a lot of shit, but it is awesome.
It is awesome. It is so much fun. Like it is not meant to be like Academy Award winning shit. It's meant to tell just a heroic story. You're meant to have awesome monsters, awesome robots. I think that movie does not get enough appreciation.
So many people give that movie a lot of crap. And I'm like, dude, that is one of the best films out there. Like I've met a very select few people that enjoy Pacific Rim as much as me.
Oh, dude, I fucking love that movie. And you know what bugs me is like those people that are like, oh, it's dumb. It's like the jaded people, that I think just like to sound cool and like, to say, oh, it sucked or it wasn't this. And granted, the movie's not for everyone. Like there's different kinds of movies, there's different kind of experiences. Some stories, some movies, they're just for fun, right? They're just for that rush,
That's why we have comedy.
Yeah, it's why we have comedy. It's why we have horror. It's why why we have big budget action films, and we also have very quiet, intense dramas. It's all different, and like for me, I can be a bit of a snob, with quality of like movies and plays and TV shows I watch, but it's never based on like, oh, that was dumb, or oh, it was just silly. There was no point. Is like, is it what it's trying to be? Is what this story trying to be? Is it succeeding at? Is it a good action movie? Does it thrill me? Is this a good horror movie? Meaning, did it scare me? Did it stick with me? Did it have me on the edge of my seat? This drama, did it suck me in? Did I really take that emotional journey? Do I like, the writing choices? And the writing is a big thing for me. I hate bad writing in anything.
Yeah, like M. Night Shyamalan has really good twists and turns. Like, I like a lot of his movies. So I saw Lady in the Water in theaters. Thought that was a great movie. I love the whole concept.
I like that one too, and that's one that not a lot of people care for, and I personally like it a lot.
Everyone likes the newest one, like Glass, and I'm like, did you see Unbreakable? No. Then how the hell did you see Glass?
Yeah,
it's like you didn't see Split? I saw Split. It was pretty good. I was like, but did you see the one before that where it kind of let it in a little bit more? Now you're seeing all of them connect now. Like, have you even taken the time to look up Sixth Sense? I mean, or The Visit? Like, that was a good movie too. A lot of people gave that one a lot of flack.
So that one's fun. My parents love it. They watch it all the time, like literally all the time. Like whenever someone recommends, oh, let's watch a scary movie, they're like, let's watch The Visit. And because of that, I have a sour taste in my mouth just because like I got tired of it. But again, I don't think it's bad because at what it's trying to be, this sort of strange, thrilling, like horror film that kind of weaves in and out. I think it succeeds at that. Now, for me, my problem with like M. Night Shyamalan is I think he writes good. I think he has like a good overall story arc in his films. And I think he creates very interesting worlds in his films. What bugs me is his ability to write dialogue and some of the things he has his characters say, like literally, on the page. They don't always strike me as very human or realistic, but that's just my personal taste on him. It doesn't mean like I don't think he's a good storyteller,
I mean, I can agree with that. I think the reason why I like The Visit so much is because I saw the Scary Movie parody version of that too. I think it was Scary Movie 4, and they had like the sister was blind and the brother was an idiot, and like they were like chasing each other, and then like it's just a good old Scary Movie concept. It's the reason why.
No. You're thinking of The Village.
Yeah, the Village, not The Visit. The Visit scared the crap, or not really scared me. Like I saw that one in theaters. That's the one with the crazy grandparents, right?
Yeah, the creepy old grandparents.
See,
yeah.
I don't get scared at all. I think horror movies now are just jump scares, which really pisses me off because what I find scary, like people try to scare me in my house. I legit don't get scared over anything. But what does freak me out is mental health. Because I took psychology and I know a lot of people with mental health issues, and I realize that's a real thing. So as soon as I find out that the grandparents aren't really the grandparents and they're people that are suffering from insane mental illness, I'm the only one in the theater that is literally not. I'm looking over seeing my mom and my brother who fight all the time hugging each other because they're so scared. I'm like, you're 5 years older than me, and I'm not afraid. But it's just everyone was like that. They were all like cuddled up in their seats, like, oh God, here it comes, here it comes. I'm just sitting there like, what's so scary about this? And then I find out they're mentally insane, and I'm like, whoa, that brings it really, that kind of, it shakes me a little bit, because I'm like, damn, there are people out there that experience things of this sort.
Yeah, yeah, it brings it a little closer to home, and that's exactly like what Joker succeeds at. You know, I don't know if you read, but like a lot of media reports are like people are walking out of the Joker because it's too disturbing. I don't personally find it all that disturbing in the sense like you find like a horror movie disturbing, but it's disturbing in the sense that it, like I said, it portrays mental illness in a very realistic way, in a very scary way, and I think it forces people to confront maybe their own prejudices, you know, that they hold, you know, over the mentally ill, or, you know, face even the dark parts of themselves in the film. And like, yeah, I like your point of view on that. Is definitely, you know, mental illness is a scary thing. Did you see Hereditary?
I did not.
That is a really good horror film. That's probably the scariest horror film I've seen in a few years, because it really combines the supernatural element that you would expect out of a horror film, and real mental illness and real grief. Grief is a big part of the film, and how that makes people act, and you know, the sort of behaviors they adopt in response to grief and tragedy. So I think that one would be right up your alley. And that one I can't watch again. Like I won't watch again. I didn't even watch the director who made that movie. He had a new movie come out this summer called Midsummer. And I said, nope, not going to watch it. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's scary, but I just can't do it, man. Like he got that under my skin with Hereditary.
How did you? We talk about horror and things, but how did you get onto an action podcast? Like, it seems like you kind of have an inspiration or passion for all movies, but how did you decide to focus in on just action?
Oh, I really do. Like, I love like all movies and just stories in general. What made me get onto action was I was actually inspired by a horror podcast called the Dead Meat Podcast. They're also a YouTube channel, super fun. They're really good at what they do, and they're on a much bigger platform, you know, than I am. But they obviously their channel is horror centric, and their main series on YouTube is a series called The Kill Count, where the host literally just watches movies and he counts all the kills in the movies, and you know, he tells jokes along the way, and it's very, very entertaining. It's one of my favorite things I look forward to every Friday. But their podcast, they just review horror movies, and I liked the way they reviewed things. And he does it with his girlfriend, now his fiance. And I asked myself, you know, I want to talk about movies, you know, and share my passion for it. But there's so many podcasts out there, right? There's so many YouTube channels out there that review movies, that talk about movies. So I thought to myself, what can separate me from everyone else? And I figured, like Dead Meat, they stick to one genre, right? So I asked myself and my fiance, I'm like, what are the kind of movies we always watch? What's a genre that I can really at least cling to? And we decided on action films. Or no, I say we, but it was I was like, I think action films, because you can almost consider any film an action film, you know, because if something happens, you know, is there a chase sequence? Is there a car chase? Is there a fight of some kind? You can probably toss action into the list of genres that can apply to a movie. But you know, you are right that I love all movies, and this is something that even my fiance and I have discussed. And we're actually on an upcoming episode of the podcast. We're going to sort of pose the question to our viewers: do you like listening to us because we talk about action movies, or do you like listening to us simply because you like hearing us talk about movies? So, in the long run, I don't think we're always going to be action addiction. I
Should
think sort
definitely
of.
branch off into some horror, man, because you got some great kind of interpretations of it too, man. Like, a lot of people just see a film and they just see the story, but it takes a little bit more to go into that. Whether it's a budget, whether it's the actors, whether it's like, I've seen some really good independent films that are better than most Michael Bay films, or ones you just see all over because they have money, they have a good advertisement. Some of
Oh,
the ones,
absolutely.
some of the ones that just sneak in the theater, you don't even really get to see a trailer for, and you're like, damn, that one moved me more than that's like Disney something.
Yeah, man. And that's kind of the unfortunate state of like cinema right now, is because the average movie watcher, you know, is just going to see these big event driven films, you know, the Fast and the Furious franchise, Disney movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. there's room for that. That's part of cinema. That's always been part of cinema. Like ever since movies were first being made, we had these big event-driven films like King Kong, The Ten Commandments. Those were huge, big budget films for the time. So I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I think what's wrong with cinema right now these days is the lack of courage in telling unique stories. I think most studios just want to have a surefire bet on what's going to make them money, and unfortunately, that's business. But back in the day, I think studios were more willing to take chances on just different stories being told, because back then it was more about standing out from the competition is what separates us. What can we do differently? And you never knew what was going to be a hit. Whereas now I feel like, particularly with Warner Brothers and Disney, is Warner Brothers is just trying to emulate Disney, specifically with their DC movies. I feel like why the DC movies were such a misfire in the beginning is because they were very, very obviously just trying to play catch up with Marvel and get to the big team driven film right away.
It's sad because what the movie producers and directors go for now is once they make a film, they have a template that works, and they just go off the template. It's the same kind of concept of things. It's just like a new Call of Duty. They just add some things and change it up a little bit, but it's the same thing because they know that's what sells and that's what moves stuff. We still need independent directors. We still need self-produced stuff, especially because it just when one company starts branching off and hiring people just to make a bunch of movies, they all seem really, really similar. And that's because at the ending view of what gets published, that company is sitting down reviewing it. It's the same people over and over again. And they're going to tell you what fits, what needs to be changed, what needs this, what needs that. And it's all going to end up feeling like you're eating the same thing, but just with a different spice on top of it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And yeah, you're right. And if I could, have like a soapbox moment, is like I would encourage anyone, just go take a chance on a movie that you wouldn't normally see when you go to the movies. I'm not telling people like, to not go see Marvel movies or, Warner Brothers movies. Go see those. They're fun. Hell yeah. Go with your friends, go with your, your spouse. But every once in a while, like take a chance on something at the movie theaters. Don't wait till it comes to, DVD or home or Netflix. Go see it at the movie theaters and just like, take a chance. You may not like it, but you're also probably going to come across some things that you found out you liked. Like you said, you watch some independent films and you go, wow, that moved me way more than anything I saw in the theaters. So I think that's something that, viewers and like media consumers kind of need to get back to,
I give that statement a 5-star review, my friend.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Well, hey, Josh, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, all your links and everything, so they can listen to your awesome podcast, man.
Oh, thank you, brother. So you can find us. Our podcast is available on Apple Podcasts. We're available on Stitcher. We're available on Spotify and SoundCloud. That's Action Addiction. I host that with my beautiful fiance, Sabrina Sanford. We've got some really fun content coming up. You can find us on our social medias, Instagram and Facebook at The Action Addiction. And if I can also plug my fiance, Sabrina, has an Etsy shop. She's an artist. She paints really awesome, nerdy things. Her Etsy shop is called Beans, BENS, Baubles, BAUBLES. Co. You can also follow her Instagram at the same name, Beans Baubles Co. And she does commissions too. So if you see something, if you don't see something that you want, you can DM her and she can paint it up for you.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode of Out of the Blank, and stay tuned for our next episode.